So in addition to being able to declare and initialize it, we'll also take a look at a couple of different ways that we might go through some array processing, basically by getting the values that are in the array and performing some kind of, say, some math operations on them. So let's say we use nums2 to do this. So we're going to take the values at each one of these positions. Say maybe I want to be able to add to one, subtract from another, and multiply with the other. So we can do something like integer sum is going to be equal to nums2 nums0 plus something like 15. So we're going to take the 10 that is at this location, add 15 to that. Also make sure this is nums2. Say for the next one, we'll do integer difference. We'll just do diff is equal to nums2, position 1, and we're going to subtract something like 7 from that. So we get 8 as the result. And then for the last one, we want to do like a product. So we'll do int prod is equal to nums2, position 2, and we're going to multiply this one by 2. Okay. And then if we want to, we can go ahead and print out each one of these values. So print out the sum. We'll print out the difference. And we'll go ahead and print out the product. Okay. So the end result of all this, we'll go ahead and leave everything as it is. We'll just go ahead and print out the 3 positions. So we've got our 10, 15 to 20, and then also see our 10 plus 15, which gives us 25, our 15 minus 7, which gives us 8, and our 20 times 2, which will give us 40. So come over here, compile this, and run it. And then we can see our positions, and then our 25, 8, and 40. So this shows us a little bit of being able to process the individual elements at each location in this array. So in addition to this, there's also another kind of processing that we could do. We've seen some unique operators within programming languages, say like the increment and the decrement operators. So another thing I want to go ahead and take a look at is being able to use, say, the increment operator on different parts or different components of one of these locations in our array. So the first one we'll look at is we're going to do the pre-increment, and we're going to do this to the value of nums2. Okay, so the current value of nums2 is 10. We're going to do this pre-increment to add 1 to that to make it 11. And then underneath that, I'm going to do something kind of similar, but there'll be a very distinct difference or a very distinct change that I've made. So we're going to do nums2, and then inside of here, I want to go ahead and do an increment on the position. So to do this, at least a simple way to do this, I'm going to create another variable. I'll call it something like 0, so that I can just hold the value 0. And then right here, we're going to do plus plus 0. So we can take a look at that as well. And the expectation with this one is that we're going to do a pre-increment on the subscript of it. And so this is going to be incremented from 0 to 1. So instead of going from 10 to 11, this is going to move positions, and it's going to go from 10 to 15. All right. So we'll go ahead and compile this and run it. And then we can see these last 2 values at the bottom here. We've got 11 where we incremented position 0 by 1, and then we've got 15 where we incremented the subscript starting at position 0 to position 1. Okay. Okay, so at this point, this is going to cover the first little bit of a sort of introduction to arrays. We took a look at being able to declare and initialize arrays and a little bit of processing. Going into the next video, we're going to start looking at a few other properties of arrays and also how we might go about using user input with arrays.